see if it's safe.
I'll go check.
Are we still on the left cameras?
Yeah, July 23rd.
So the park comes in or whatever?
They'll be here to finish it up.
Okay.
Good. Call to order the Stuart Municipal Utilities Council Chambers. Tentative agenda Thursday, July 10th, 2025, 5:30 p.m. Roll call. Sherman.
Here.
Horton.
Here.
Crawford.
Here.
Belden.
Here.
Avey here. Agenda approval, consent agenda, minutes of joint meeting of 6/9/2025 and regular meeting 6/12/2025. Financial statement as of 6/30/2025 and bills as presented. And we need a motion. I'll do it.
Second by Kim.
Okay.
You vote.
How do you vote? Sherman?
Here.
Horton?
Here.
Crawford?
Yes.
Belden? Avey, yes. Okay, number 5, utility engineer Forrest, Veenstra and Kim, alternate water source study update and certified site plan evaluation agreement for services.
All right, thank you, board. Forrest Aldership, Eastern Kim. So at the last meeting, we went through the report and we talked about a lot of different water sources. We talked about a lake north of town. We looked at Diamond Head Lake. We looked at the Jordan Aquifer. We looked at the shallow wells up near Redfield. Looked at all these sources. Looked at what we could do with the treatment plant, rehabilitate the existing plant, new plant, and looked at all of those. And really, or what we came to the conclusion was the choice for the utility is stay with Xenia or look at doing a new water plant with using the shallow wells over by Redfield. So that's kind of what we were looking at. And I had some handouts the last meeting, and there were some questions about that. So what I did is I kind of went through and redid the handouts, and I have did they make packets? I brought them along anyway. I don't know if that'll make it in pretty colors or not, but I brought them and I wanted to go through those handouts and kind of explain how we're getting where we are. Because there's really two things that are moving targets for us. One is, what do we think the population and water usage is going to be in the future? So that's one moving target. And two, what do we think Xenia's rates are going to be in the future? So crystal balling those two things leads the utility to leaning one way or another versus going with a new water plant and Redfield wells versus staying with Xenia. Now there's some blending options, and we can talk about that. But kind of the first go around is, what do we think of those two, and then we can look at things in the middle. So the first thing that we had was this one. Everybody's got that? That color? All right. Wow. I don't know if you got it.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. So the orange is the population projection that we're looking at. That's over on the right-hand column for population projection. And then the blue is the annual usage in gallons of water each year. And you can see, 2024, you were down to 80,000 gallons, but you go back a couple years and you were almost pushing 100,000. So I don't know why, maybe Ben knows, but there's some variability in there. But if you're designing a water plant, you can't design for the low number, you have to design for the high number. So, we kind of did that dash line that's in there, kind of normalizing the projection of water usage. And that's kind of what we used as our basis for projecting a water plant that could serve the water needs in 2045. Because you wanted financing, SRF financing is out 20 years. 20 years is about the lifespan of a lot of the equipment, and so you don't really want to go much further than that when you start looking at projecting demands out. And a lot of times when we do a water plant anyway, we always make sure there's room to expand the plant. Sometimes we make the building a little bit bigger, or we make sure that you can knock out the wall and add more building, more treatment units. So we would do that regardless, in case these numbers are off, or beyond 2045, there's you're not looking at having to start all over. You can expand on what you have. So any questions about that? I mean, that's the first puzzle, first key thing we looked at is projecting out that population, projecting out that water demand, because then that affects how big of a water plant you need and how many wells you need out by Redfield. So that's kind of, so this is kind of an important piece. I think we're pretty close. I mean, I feel comfortable with these numbers, but if there's any questions about that. Then the second handout is, and the second piece of the puzzle is what Wayland Xenia is going to do. And this one I feel a lot better about than what we think Xenia is going to do. So that's this one. Okay. All right. I'll take it. Take another one. Yeah, here's the first one you get out. This is the first one that was looking at population and water use projections. So this is looking backwards all the way back 20 years for what Xenia has done with water rates. And so the bottom is showing the actual rates, and then the top one is showing the percentages. So for the last 20 years, the average has been 7%. If you throw out that big spike in 2011, it's 5.4. And my thought is you probably should use the average of 7, because if they didn't spike it at 38% in 2011, they would have spread that out over multiple years, and then it would have fell in the average. So this is showing 7%. Now this year, it was only 1 something, but there's been other years where it's been 0 or none. And then you look at 2012, they were at 15%, 13 was nothing, and then they went up to 11, 12% and 14. So,
And the Des Moines Waterworks problems they're facing with nitrate issues, won't that domino into these rates as well?
yes, so that's a good point, Brian. Xenia gets their water from Des Moines Waterworks, and if you're read the front page of the Des Moines Register today, the city of Des Moines is having problems with nitrates in the drinking water. And they're typically, the limit is 10 milligrams per liter, and they're pushing 8, 9 milligrams per liter in their drinking water. And that's because of the nitrates in the Raccoon and the Des Moines rivers, which are coming from northwest Iowa. And so there's nitrates, and so they've told everybody they can't irrigate. So those
But it's dropping. Wasn't it at 15%?
Yeah, it's been dropping.
Yes.
Now, if I read the whole article this morning, and they said, but that might be a temporary drop because we had a whole bunch of rain,
Right,
and it might come back up again.
right.
So if we were to, I mean, can you test, if we had a water treatment plant, can you test what that same value would be? Would it be less concentrated in nitrates here?
Oh, we
You
tested that.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm talking
Yeah,
about the
I'm-
Redfield wells, I'm
Me
saying,
too.
okay,
We tested Redfield wells, they're very low.
Yeah, they're
okay,
practically
That's
not.
not a surface source, so
Yeah,
nitrate's gonna be a lot lower.
yeah, that's right. The Redfield wells are a groundwater source, which are very low in nitrites and nitrates.
so the downside to those that water source is it's a hard water source, is that?
It's hard and it has iron.
And it's a long ways away.
It's a long design. Yeah, but yes. Yeah. But that's why we had in there the water treatment plant, because that would take the iron out and it would soften the water to similar levels that you're getting from Xenia. So our goal with the water plant was that we would have comparable water quality between Xenia water and Stuart water.
Is there a way that could be looked at so it would be better quality, right? So I mean,
Nitrates for sure.
okay, but I mean,
Yes.
like, do you treat it in such a way that it gets the iron level to what Xenia's is?
Yes.
Basically, you normalize everything what Xenia has, but your nitrates are just an added bonus. We don't get
Right.
the nitrate issue from, I don't know, I'm
Right.
just.
Yeah, the Des Moines is treating for nitrates down to 8, 9. We don't have to treat any of it, and we're gonna get practically nothing, I would think.
Two at most.
2 at the most.
They're getting from the river,
Right.
so it's surface water, and that's why it's basically a natural filter when we're drawing from a well.
Yeah,
So
right.
the nitrate's a lot less.
Plus, they no longer are farming that area around our wells anymore. That a developer bought that, so now they're not even putting crops on that. So that makes a difference too, even lowers it more.
So a couple of historical questions. Prior to us going with Xenia several years ago, my understanding is our water at that point was not nearly as good as what we have today.
Mhm.
So what changes now with the new water plant that we're putting on in saying that we can make just as good a quality water today as what we get from Xenia?
Because with the new water plant, we'd be doing membrane filtration, the RO that you hear about, the reverse osmosis. 20 years ago, that technology was not very well developed. And your only choices for softening the water was ion exchange or lime softening. And so that's, you did not have that, and you still don't have that in your current water plant.
Okay.
So you would have had to, at 20 years ago, or whatever this was, 25 years ago, you would have had to add that to your existing plant.
Okay.
And back then, their rates were less than $2 a 1,000 gallons, as opposed to almost 6.
That was the first question, so thank you for the answer. The second is, so 2011, the spike was that a huge infrastructure project?
That was an accounting adjustment by Enron, I'm sorry.
I don't know the answer. Maybe Pat knows or Ben knows why that big spike in
Didn't
2011.
they file bankruptcy around that point?
It was around the
So they did, it's financial.
Yeah.
Filed bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And they ended up selling part of their system to
Yeah.
Des Moines Waterworks, I think, didn't they? To kind of get, that kind of dug them out a little
It was
bit.
kind of a result of the housing crash. I mean,
Yeah,
there was a lot going on during that time
Right.
financially.
yeah, and the ethanol plant was that they ran that water line straight out from someplace by DeSoto, right? To Menlo, which that's a huge customer there. So,
I didn't know if this was.
so who knows how much of that 38% is what I'm getting
Right.
at is for that.
Right.
Just throw that out.
In my head, I'm thinking you were talking 20-year cycles for infrastructure improvement type things, and are they gonna be potentially looking at something huge coming up in the next,
Yeah.
5, 6 years, 10 years, whatever, that might be another large spike since they haven't had one for a while. But if it's not related to necessarily infrastructure, if it's other financial issues that they had way back in the day, then
Yeah, I know, but I know, I'm not much help. All I can do is look backwards, looking forward on what Xenia may or may not do.
But if you just compare, how you're treated as customers from SIPCO on the power side to Xenia on the water side, this would be flat. Pat, jump in here if I'm off base here, but see how this is just gradually doubling over the last 20 years? That doesn't happen with SIPCO. They don't graduate their input costs. And so, I mean, that's why you saw Ash talking about his rates not going up.
Well, it's fair to say though, Citgo produces their own power and Xenia buys their water from Des Moines. So they get increases and they have to pass them on, whereas Citgo has a little more control over the fact that they're actually producing the power.
Yep, and so you got Panora, Guthrie, and Greenfield all cleaning their own water, controlling their own shit. So that's if you could, if this would economically and quality of water wise make sense to pursue, but I mean, that's to your point.
Yeah.
One controls its own show, and the other one doesn't.
Yeah, and the Des Moines Water is now Central Iowa Waterworks, so all of the metros have combined together. And they are planning on spending a huge amount of money on nitrate removal and new water plants and new water mains. And Xenia as a customer will indirectly have to pay a part of that, and indirectly, Stuart will have to pay for that as well. So, but you're one little piece of the whole metro, so what impact that has on rates, and, I don't know.
So just trying to understand what risk we might be taking off the table by going away from Xenia, but also what risk we're taking on by doing things ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can elaborate on maybe some of those risks by, having our own water plant. What risk does that put on ourselves?
It's always, one is, will the water be there? Are we going to have a really bad drought and we're going to suck the wells dry and run out of water?
But where it's at, isn't there a bunch of springs?
Well, to be fair, we've seen water levels gradually drop over the last 20 years. I mean, when we, for example, we just ran for 3 weeks straight. One of our wells, we only had 5 foot of water on top of the pump. That's, now granted, it may stay at that 5 foot, 20 years ago, there was a lot more water than that on top of that. Yeah, so it depends. I mean, there are some years where, we have never run out of water there yet, but we have not pumped those heavily for, 20 years.
Because that's kind of what ran into out by Avoca, wasn't it? Their shallow wells
Yes.
in the dry weather.
Yeah.
And they got to the point where they couldn't produce enough water to keep the pressure.
Right. Now, we would keep our connection to Xenia.
Right.
So that if we ever did run out of water, call Xenia up and say, hey, we need to have an emergency connection and have water so we don't end up like Avoca and some of those other towns over there, but in western Iowa. So, that's a risk. Have a hard time finding an operator, that would be another potential risk. You're having that trouble on the city's having that trouble on the wastewater side. So that might be a risk.
So is that something Ben can do?
Yeah.
I've already
Like-
got grade 3 treatment and distribution, which
Yeah.
is beyond what we need now.
Okay.
I'm saying if you lose Ben, then who's the next person? It's kind of like the city's losing Jim, who's the next person?
He can't go anywhere.
Well, Trevor has certain, eventually it could be an issue, but to Forrest's point.
Yeah, not an immediate issue, I'm just, Neil was asking
Right.
things that might happen down the road that might be a risk, and so, that's a risk.
And I'm sorry to keep interrupting. The only thing though that to me is all risky is just we have a really long pipeline between here and Redfield, and there's no Xenia would be our backup. We only have one, like as much redundancy as Forrest could build for us, we still only have one pipeline. So if that pipeline fails under the river, for instance, we could be out of water that would be a major problem.
Yeah, that would,
Or in the timber on a big hill, because our water main for you guys that might not be familiar, it doesn't follow roads. They basically just cut cross country through fields, under streams and rivers, through timbers, like whatever they had to do to get there. So some of our water main, a few years ago, we had, 12 years ago, we had a creek that rerouted over the years and it washed out like 150 feet of our water main and just washed it away. And we didn't even know where the problem was. We just weren't getting water. So it took us, 3 or 4 days just to find the problem, and then it took us a couple months to fix it. That's very unusual. Really, the well line's been very dependable, but that is a risk in using wells that are that far away.
Xenia's further though, right?
Well, yes, I mean, Xenia could have they only have a single water main coming from Des Moines out here along the interstate, and same thing, if they have a break, then you're without water if Xenia breaks somewhere between here and Des Moines too. And didn't they have that?
Well, but they do have a line out here. They do have a loop for us. Most of our water is over here, but they do have a main that runs somewhere north that they put in when they did the ethanol plant. So there is some backfeed, but yeah, it puts them at a disadvantage, I think.
It's probably pretty small,
I think so.
pretty small. So may not be able to serve the entire town through that main, I wouldn't think.
So
They
is
had a
that,
problem on this line. We were able to get by. I don't know exactly. We've not been in that position so far.
so is there upside instead of bringing water this way, it's purified, sent that way as a revenue source to sell?
So you could,
Imagine that.
you're designing a water plant for needs 20 years from now. In the meantime, you'll have excess capacity that you could potentially sell to Xenia. If, that'd be a conversation with Xenia if they want that, but the meter can work both ways if it's set up that way. So yes, you could potentially sell water, or you could make your water plant bigger than you need to sell that to Xenia. Or to Redfield for that matter, or Dexter, or, But they, right now they got their own water plants,
Sure.
they're seem to be doing fine, I would think. But yeah, that's
So how is
an option.
Redfield set up then? It doesn't have this newer technology then that?
Redfield?
Yeah, is it a harder water or do they soften it?
No, they have the same water.
They have zeolite.
They have zeolite.
They put that in long enough ago.
Yeah, so they use the zeolite softener, which is an ion exchange.
Is that reverse osmosis
No,
or not?
it's a different technology.
It's an older one or
It's an older technology, works fine,
does the same thing or?
does the same thing, but it puts chlorides in your drinking water. No, it puts sodium into your drinking water, puts chlorides. Basically, what you're doing is taking salt,
Okay.
which is high school chemistry, everybody. Sodium chloride is salt, and you put the salt into the water, and the sodium ion goes in the drinking water, and the calcium, the hardness, combines with the chloride, so you go from sodium chloride to calcium chloride, and the calcium chloride goes down the drain. So you end up sending chloride to the wastewater plant, and DNR's gotten real finicky about chlorides these days because chlorides will kill the fish in the aquatic life in the stream. So that's why we're not posing ion exchange here, is because then you'd have chlorides, and the chlorides would go to the wastewater plant, and we'd violate our permit at the wastewater plant. More than you wanted to know, but
No, it makes sense.
that's what ion exchange. Redfield has a lagoon, so
So it doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
Sure. I just didn't know if there was enough benefit on that side to create that as a revenue source, offset some of the cost of
Yeah.
building that, if there was an equilibrium of finding a better quality or making a better quality water source here ourselves versus, the nitrate issue and
Yes.
everything else and the
Yeah.
cumulative impact of all the rate increases over the years.
Yes, you are correct, because I would think, if Xenia is looking at buying nitrate water from Des Moines at 8 parts per million, or they could get it from Stuart for 2 parts per million or 1 part per million, they'll say, yeah, send us the Stuart water and, we'll pay you for that. So, I think there is an opportunity to sell water to Xenia, because like I said, you build that water plant for 20 years out and you'll have excess capacity until your population and your water demands grow.
Can I share a couple tidbits about Xenia? So for their larger customers, Poet at Menlo is their single largest customer. 364 million gallons are sold by Xenia to Poet every year. 2.6 million in revenue. That's 14% of Xenia's revenue, that single source. The city of Stuart is their 4th largest customer, 2.19% of the revenue in the $400,000 range. So their total revenue is 18.3 million for a year. So consider what a scope that is, the Poet Menlo plant of the 18.3 million. It's big. 15% roughly.
Too bad we didn't run that water line.
Maybe that's good.
Maybe that's good.
But if you,
No, I meant before when.
you would want to know that gallonage if you intend to sell to Xenia to provide water to.
Yeah, there's no way we could have that much water just go to Poet. All we could do is send some water there, and then they would blend with the Des Moines water on its way out to Poet.
So Madrid does this, is the only reason I asked, right? I mean, they do this, there's a sales source there. And if it's not profitable enough to do that, then it's not. But I just didn't know if it was a question for the costs and all that, whatever that's looked at, so.
It's an option, yes, but it takes some conversations with Xenia. You have to have some conversations, maybe some assumptions on what that bulk rate would be for sale to Xenia.
So can we just take Madrid's volume that they sell today to them and use that as a proxy?
We could take the
We don't even have to talk to
rate.
Xenia.
We could talk to Madrid and say, we know somebody at Madrid. We could talk to Christie and say, what do you sell your water to Xenia for?
Yeah.
And then we could take that number and then we could look at, here's what we're looking at for a water plant in Stuart, and say, okay, for the first 10 years, we don't need all of it. What if we sold that much water? How much revenue would that generate? So
Yeah,
we
we
could
just
do that
said-
easy enough.
Let's just say the water is a lot better. It's all equal to Xenia's, but the nitrates are much better. So we roll with this concept and maybe, this is a payback of 15 years. We can fund this thing on 15 years. There's no water cost to purchase, so we use that money for that bond, and it's a 15-year payback. So the question is, can we, like you said, use excess capacity and make that payback 15 years now down to 10 years or something?
Yeah, I think that's worth exploring, Brian.
And not even talk to Xenia unless
Right.
it's even worth it, right?
Right.
If it only goes from 15 to 14, it's not.
Right, but we could run that number with getting that
Yeah.
number from Madrid.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we'll get that put together. I think that's a good suggestion.
If it's feasible, I don't know what.
If selling the water is feasible, then does that put into question how large we want the facility to be? Do you want to actually increase that?
Maybe, but my first thing would look at it is if we're gonna build it this big for Stewart's needs for 20 years from now, what's that excess capacity we'll have in the first 10, 15 years? And what revenue will that generate to begin with? And then if that number is good, then we can say, okay, we'll have to make up a number, we'll make the plant this big and we'll make it this big. And we have the excess capacity here, and then we got this excess capacity even beyond 20 years. And now you're kind of throwing some darts at dartboards to how big is too big and, not big enough.
Right. But if you have the capacity excess for 10 years and you're starting to reach that center, you can always expand.
Expand the water plant. Yeah, that's right.
So how do you test for some of the questions that have been brought up, I guess? Like, to understand, worst case scenario, the water sustainability, right? If water was this high and it's lower, I don't know, I mean,
Well,
when we were on, we tried to ask all these questions, we didn't really.
that's okay. This is a little bit bigger, maybe a little easier to read. Bigger? Sure.
I got it.
Is Dexter treating their water as well?
Sure. Well,
Is Dexter treating their water then?
they don't soften, they do
So
treat
you
their
still
own
have
water,
to
but
have
they
the old
don't.
water softeners and the rock salt or whatever kind of.
Yeah, so your home
50
water
pound
softener,
bags and all that.
yeah, all that.
I'm not gonna keep interrupting. Do your Redfield wells need any work?
That's what,
The
yeah,
wells,
that's,
Yeah, and we have some money in there.
that's all the sizing now, yeah, absolutely, those are good questions. Because what the, I mean, honestly, what the concept or questions are going to be is why in the world would we go back 20 years to 60 years on the water source that we moved away from to get to a better quality water source, now that we would go back to the same source we left? That's gonna be in people's minds that have been in this town for years. Because of the, going over there, to the co-op to buy rock salt by the truckloads or they deliver it. I can remember carrying down my parents' basement stairs. And I mean, everybody, that's how they treated it. So, I mean, those are gonna be the questions that have to be covered on.
Right, and we're,
No, I'm just saying, I mean, we'll have to,
yeah,
if this were to ever go forward, that, those are
Yep.
the questions that people ask.
wholeheartedly.
Why
that's-
did we ever go to I mean, to me, I think the Zenith thing worked for a long time. It's the sustainability of the rate increases and then this nitrate issue, current state isn't doing anything about it. I mean, as far
If
as,
you look at the rural customers, I mean, their minimums went from like $25 a month to, I think, like $100 a month or $70 a month, or, I mean,
everybody's.
because they got in financial trouble. That was the thing. It's in 2008 when the housing bubble collapsed, they built all this
It's on your
infrastructure.
chart. Yeah.
Right, and so, I mean, that was a big part of the big jumps, and they're probably still recovering from some of that, I'm guessing.
They got public. Some of it, but anyway, I just,
So yeah, that's why we didn't even look at not softening. I mean,
yeah, you can't.
Can't
It's
do
gotta
that.
be, it's gotta be such a better, to me, a better source and sustainable with limited gaps to, and hopefully it is, but anyway.
yeah, so we, this report is based off of providing a water treatment plant that is equal to and better than the Zenith water quality.
Okay.
Soft water, no iron, no manganese, and very little nitrates, which Xenia has lots of. So this is the last one. This kind of ties it all together. So if you look at the table there at the bottom, and this is kind of the fuzzy crystal ball. So it's kind of combining that first handout and the second handout all in one chart here. So there's a lot going on here. So what we did is we took the 24. We said, okay, if the usage is going up, like we showed in that first chart, that's the annual purchase per gallon. It's in 2030, 2035, 2040, 2045.
And vertically is just you're indexing 1 to 8% increases, and that's all that is in comparison.
Yeah, that's just taking the numbers from this chart
Okay,
to here and plugging these numbers in here for 2030 into this chart down below. For those annual purchases per gallons. Then what we did, we said, okay, your charge right now is for $5.47 per 1,000 gallons is your charge right now. And we said, okay, if things go up 1% by 2030, that rate's gonna be 5.75. 2035, it's gonna be $6.04 per 1,000 gallons, the Xenia rate. If you think it's gonna be 8% per
So
year,
that's just compounded 1%.
it's 1% compounded,
Okay.
yep, every year going all the way to 2045. If you think it's gonna be closer to that 7% that we had in there, then 2030, you're gonna be from 547 to 767. Then 2035, you're at 1076, 2040, 1509. So you take the growth in the water times percentage increase you think Xenia is gonna have in that, so that
That's 7.
associated rate,
No, 7.
if that's 7%, then what you can do is put that over, and what we did up above is we said, here's your average annual expense over 20 years. So if you look at the 7% up above, at average is 1.45 million, average Xenia expense. See that up above in the middle?
So it's just a 20-year average.
That's just an average over 20 years, and that number then still, if you look at 2035 for 7%, we've got 1.27. It's a little less because there's things moving with O&M and capital cost, but close for averages. So that gives you an annual average. If you finance the water plant over 20 years with SRF loans only, no grant money, nothing else, just SRF, 3.09% interest loan. That cost is $945. Average annual expense, plus we have in the O&M as well. All right, I know, there's a lot going on.
No, it's good. It's good information.
There's a lot. So, okay, so here's what we think the rates are gonna jump up with in 2030, 2035, 2040, what Xenia is gonna charge. That's the unit rate in each of these 4 years on 5-year brackets. And we think you're gonna be purchasing this much water in 2030, 2035, 2040 of 113 million gallons, 118 million, and 122. And the annual purchase that we're coming up with, because I came like, how are we gonna get from 80 to some of those numbers? But that's based off of, again, this chart. That annual purchase per year gallons is coming from this.
I'll just be honest with this. I've been so, this has nothing to do with all of the work that you've done. I'm not saying like that. Nothing during this entire analysis has really proven to be positive. I don't mean that bad. I'm just saying it didn't
Right.
look like there was any lights on, right?
Right.
This is the first page to me that shows there's
There
lights
is,
are on.
their lights are on. If you think that the break-even point is over the 20-year period, the break-even point is 4%. If Xenia's increases are 4% or less, stay with Xenia.
But 4% isn't true, first of all, and second of all, you're still 60,000 ahead annually. Times
Yeah.
20, am I reading that wrong?
Yes.
I am
Yes.
reading it
So,
wrong?
yeah, no, you're ahead 60,000 at 4%
Per year,
per year.
times 20 years.
Yeah.
So that's what's 60, that's $1.2 million. You save by doing this without grants.
Right.
By going to water treatment plant.
Yeah, and
Am
yeah,
I not
if you,
thinking about that right?
no, you're thinking about that right. So I'm saying that break point is somewhere in that 3 to 4%, somewhere in between there. At 3%, it's costing you that much total.
Probably about 3.5.
Yeah, somewhere around 3.5% is the break even point. And it's, I mean, man, there's assumptions and estimates and all
Oh, that's
kinds of
fine.
things in this, so I don't want to, take that 60,000 to the bank necessarily. It's just,
But that's
Yes,
that's, to me, that's a worst case scenario. You're at 4%, right?
yeah,
You're at 4, and you don't have anything factored in for a grant.
Right.
And what's that normal total of what's the share of the project cost normally covered by a grant?
if you get community development block grant,
Yeah,
and I think it's like 600,000.
it's not a ton.
Not a ton.
Okay.
You can get SRF loan forgiveness right now.
Wow.
That's up to 40%.
Wow. So you're telling me this $10 million project you go down to 6?
Could. No guarantees
Probably
on
won't
that.
be at 40%,
Okay,
that's
so
best
what's the
case.
average of that?
Probably $1 million,
So you get
Yeah.
$1 million in the forgivable, and you get, what'd you say?
$600,000.
So you get 1.6, that's 16%.
Yeah.
And then you recalibrate these numbers, you're gonna take that $60,000 in your savings up to 150, 200 easily.
Right. And so, yeah, if we, and back to this chart,
Does this factor in additional overhead expenses?
O&M, all that,
And I don't know what the heck.
operation maintenance costs,
So
so
that-
figured in there as well.
Okay, so that, I think I asked this one maybe last meeting, but the $945,000 that's staying static throughout this illustration, that is like the average amount over 20 years, that's including 4% increase.
So that's including the 4% increase in the operation and maintenance costs, but the borrowing stays static.
So that's your payment on that, that's
Not
the
your
average
payment.
payment, well, that's your
That's
bond payment.
That's your bond payment for 20 years, yeah. And averaging the operation and maintenance costs over
I guess my question is, so if Xenia was averaging 5%, why would we expect that in the illustration that we wouldn't have the same sort of environment where we would have 5% O&M increases?
With operation and maintenance costs, yeah, I mean, inflation's been running, 4% on average for quite a long time, and for some reason, Xenia's costs have been averaging 7%.
And look at SIPCO, I mean, you're comparing this to SIPCO increases, correct? I mean, if you control your own destiny, to go over here and have your own water, your own control, can we get that number from Panora, Guthrie, and Greenfield on what their average percentage increases on those assumptions have been in actuals for the last 5 years or something? You know what I mean?
For what?
Well, whatever you guys are talking about, a 5% increase, that 945, or whatever you're talking about, that, what'd you call it, O&M?
Operation and maintenance.
Yeah, that's fine. So whatever that real number is with somebody who owns their own water treatment plant, can we get that real number on what that's been from one of our neighbors that has one of these plants? That's what I'm getting at. Because are you saying you don't think he has any percentage increase in there for that?
No, I'm saying what this is illustrating,
point.
it's illustrating a range for Xenia of 1% to 8%.
Right.
For us, it's just illustrating 4% O&M. And what if we manage better? What if we manage worse over that time period than what Xenia is doing in their operations?
And so he's saying he's got placeholder rates in there for that, correct?
I have a 4% placeholder
Right.
in there for operation and maintenance, which is mostly labor and chemicals. And so, it's what do you think salaries are going to do in the next 20 years?
If you got 4%, I mean, he's got something.
But
I thought you guys were saying there wasn't a percentage.
No,
increase.
I think
that's
that's 4%.
Is there risk in there for equipment breakdown and things within that 20-year period? Unknown things to us, like something breaks down in year
Yes.
10, you're like, okay, now we're.
Yeah, power goes up, or, yes, there is. And I could take, now you got two variables going on there, pretty soon, what is it? Two equations, 3 unknowns, and you go around in a circle.
But that goes into the question of risk. I mean,
Yes.
Xenia could have that same sort of thing where they have some things go wrong in their overall infrastructure, and they have to increase rates because they have to fix a bunch of stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of a crapshoot for everybody.
It is.
It is. Turned over every rock. I mean, you've done a good job with this entire study. And I honestly did not think there was any direction, I thought we were getting to a point of conclusion, right? That's honestly where I thought we were gonna be at, because it didn't seem like there was a cost benefit, there was a water quality question, all this other, there was just a lot of variables. There's a lot of things that we checked on and looked at, so I thought it was this looks like a study that we can tell our citizens that we looked at. As these rates go up, we tried to provide the best value for them, and there wasn't another, and to me, this to me looks like there's a a solid option to continue to evaluate to me. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, you asked them about the risk, and, you know, Rose Acres goes out of business and quits buying water, and they're a huge customer.
Right.
You know, so that is a risk too.
So with these,
But then we have more to sell.
Yes, the sell, yes.
so again, just to take that mindset, is our line been straight down the interstate or what? I mean,
For
Is
Xenia
it-
well line or Xenia?
yeah, I mean, where does that go? Does it follow a
Are you
farmland
asking
to
the
the
well
north?
line or are you asking Xenia?
Xenia?
Oh, I don't know exactly where it goes, but I think it follows a reasonably straight path.
All I was asking is, you know, Dexter is treating their water, is that another customer? And again, what if, right? But
Yeah, I know the Xenia line goes along the south side of Dexter city limits.
so yeah, so I mean, I don't know that if that's a possibility too, if this has got a quality
Because they're
level. that's-
looking at doing an emergency connection as well.
Gotcha. So,
Dexter has an emergency
Yeah.
connection.
Oh, they did it?
They already,
Yeah.
they've had it for.
Okay.
so anyway, I like the math on it, is the water, and if you're saying the water could be better, I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple choices. One is, you know, put this on the shelf, say we're gonna stay with Xenia, see what Xenia rates do over the next 2, 3, 4 years. You know,
We've done that.
I mean, that's one option. Second option is, you know, thank you very much. We, you know, Xenia only went up 1 point whatever this year. We think that's where things are gonna go, and, you know, then we don't do anything further. Or if we think Xenia's rates is, you know, based on historical, we think they're gonna keep going in that 5 to 7% range. You know, turn that guy loose.
You've got to consider, I think a big factor is what Central Iowa Waterworks going to do with their user rates. Because they'll pass that to Xenia. which then
Yeah,
will
it's
pass
a
to
domino deal, I totally get it.
Xenia. Do you remember how much they're looking at spending?
It's tens of hundreds of millions.
So, and I know this is early and this is a one-page Excel deal, but, this board, prior boards have tried to sustain, a moderate increase on our citizens for, you know, where we get, we're only hitting with part of that, right? And so the water fund is still remaining profitable. So after all of these payments, you know, right now we're writing a check for half of it, right? So you're gonna have to raise rates to cover the other half?
Well, some of it is operation and maintenance costs that are built into that average.
But that's what you're saying, cut and loose, just put some math on it.
Yeah.
I got you, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
So recalibrate the water fund model, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
So we just did a rate study for Winterset Utilities and I'll just share a couple years. 2021 operating expenses versus 2020, they went up 0.9%. 2022 versus 21 went up 3.95. 23 went down 1.5%, 1.5. 24 versus 23 went up 3.3% for overall operating expenses.
We assume 4.
They have a lake as a water source that is surface,
That'd be surface water, yeah.
But to me, that's why we shouldn't swallow these little increases in our operating, we need to keep up. And even if, like some towns, I was been a believer in the towns that basically bill for 105% of their, and keep a,
you can
Reserve-
set
set
increase
your
rates
rates
modestly,
to be at 105% of your
Gotcha.
operating.
steadily.
And if you've got debt, like we've got a water tower, you can pay that down faster, and it would free up money for a future project, or you build your reserve. Because there's always gonna be a future project. And if we thought this is the direction we're gonna go, even if we're gonna do it now, that's where I would look at, we should keep these increases and try to work our way there. And if we've got more money in the reserve, we pass it. I mean, even at 1% debt, you're freeing up,
Yeah, I totally
Money to
get it.
pay
Money
future
still,
debt.
you
it's
still.
still money you gotta pay.
Still.
That's where I'm at. To me, it was, I'd say we're a little early on
So that's why I said maybe, you know, if you turn Chip loose, he might be able to look at your water rate model and what does this impact have? And if the answer might be, makes sense to start doing this
A little bit
a little bit at a time or a little later, or, you know, then you'll have some better numbers to look at. But also keep in mind, this isn't something that, you know, gets built overnight. I mean, we're
Correct.
looking at, you know, a lot of DNR permits and design and, you know, bidding process and getting it built. So start to finish, you're 4 or 5 years.
So, has been mentioned that pipe that goes over there, what is the age of it versus the age of the Zeta pipe would be 20 years, right? So,
The pipeline was put in, I believe, 86.
okay,
So it's getting,
it's not
It's got
terrible,
40.
but it's not like some of the mains around here, but it's still up there.
Yeah, it's not back in the 40s or 50s,
Yeah,
like some of
right.
this stuff.
Yeah,
it's a plastic line.
okay,
It's PVC.
gotcha. What do you guys think? I'm excited about this. I don't mean this bad, again. I mean, I'm excited for the first time on this because it seems like there's some viability there for cost savings. And I don't know, to me, I'd like to get more math behind it from feasibility from your side and, you know,
And we can
and the
look-
water quality and sustainability.
And I'll look at, if you want to go that route, I'll talk to Madrid and see what that cost would be to sell water. And that could lower that number.
So if we just look at this top of the house, you're at 10 million, you back out 16% to say that you get the forgivable million and this grant, right? Whatever that number.
One word of caution, they don't let you apply that forgiveness until the project's done. So
That's fine.
you'd have to bump your rates up and they can lower them after the completion of the construction.
Okay.
Stupidest thing.
But, I mean, all I'm saying is in your scenarios, can you illustrate these different tiers of
Yeah.
16% off, 13%? What would the rates do over a 10-year payback, 15-year payback, and, you know?
Yeah, and assuming we sell water,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that,
Yep.
all that.
Just curious, with the new plant built, are we our own new customer then for power, on the electric side for the power, going into pumping and all that type of stuff?
Yes,
Except for in Redfield.
Right.
except for the wells, yes, but the water plant, all the power needs at the water plant would be
Is there any,
utilities.
is there any way to gauge what that might be and what that, is it significant at all in our overall power use?
Yes, I would think you could get a pretty good idea just by the cost of running your high service pumps. There will be some more pumps because we gotta boost the pressure through those membranes. So if you get me the cost of the booster pumps, then I can ratio that for the intermediate pumps going through the membrane, and we can get fuzzy close.
We're gonna be closer than we have been since we just ran 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's always really hard to tell what our cost of production was, because when you only run 2 days out of a month, it's really tough, because you know, you're not running long enough to see what that would be. But I think it's gonna be easier that we just ran 3 weeks. We'll get some numbers.
Forrest, you're seeing more towns move away from building their own water treatment plants or moving toward that, right? I mean,
Moving, for some reason, in the last 5 to 10 years, we're seeing a lot of towns retrofitting or building new water plants.
that's because it seems like, 20 years ago, you can see it. Let them purify it, we'll get a water line out here, we'll pay for it, we'll be set. It makes sense
You know,
on all of that.
yeah, Altoona's going out on their own, Bondurant's going out on their own, Van Meter's going out on their own. You know, they're
So won't
wanting to do their own thing rather than be part of the.
So that will cause more cost to be passed to fewer people. You're gonna have fewer customers, is that not true?
Well, Van Meter's doing their own thing already, Altoona's doing, so Bondurant, I guess.
Well,
But that-
yeah, I'm
yeah,
just saying,
yeah.
when you got all these people buying this water now, so they got some economies of scale, right?
Right.
They got some going into, did like Grimes just join that?
Grimes just joined.
Which which is.
so that's going the other way.
Yeah.
That's going the other way.
That's 5-1.
That's five to one.
Yeah, we got 5.
Yes.
Stuart just built do you remember that?
Yeah.
$60 million
Who
water. Southern Iowa Rural Water.
Okay.
It's, they used to buy, or they still maybe do buy water from Osceola, Creston, Mount Air, and they have just built a new, I believe it was 60, tens of millions water plant, because they couldn't get enough from their other sources.
The city and Surlock and got in a hole.
It,
To Tussa.
yeah, to say the least.
So that'd be my thought is either the board says, thank you very much, let's see what Xenia rates do for the next 3-4 years, or the next step is, Chip, can you kind of delve into this financing a little bit more?
Sounds good to me.
Thanks for all the work that you won.
Yeah. I'd like to see Chip dig into this more. I don't see a reason why we would not have more information on what this would do for us, to potentially put us on our own self-control. It's
Well,
working.
I even think, like, we could do small increases, like I said. So our reserve paid on debt, if we go ahead with it, we're in a better position to do it without raising rates 14% like we gotta do from the electric side,
Yeah.
down in a short number of years.
Yeah.
That's what hits the customers, is this big
Yeah.
shock of
Yeah,
a huge increase.
and Chip is working with cities that are looking at doing that, we know there's maybe something big coming in the future, let's start putting some money in reserves, so we're not doing that
And
shot.
see, I'd look at it differently. I'd like to see our community grow
Right.
and not have to hit the same people for the same dollars that they have. I'd like to take less dollars from those people and have a population.
And if we get that growth, we can possibly do that.
Yeah.
But to
And that's-
me, we got to plan for what we are right now. We can't, if we think we're headed in that direction where we need a water plant, nothing's guaranteed.
Sure.
To me, the biggest thing is get rid of some debt and you've just freed up resources.
So.
I'd like to see more information on it.
From Chip,
AJ? Yeah.
See the numbers.
okay. Okay, good.
Sure.
No one asked Chip, I thought maybe I should.
Sure.
Okay, well, I can work with Chip on getting him these numbers and getting the selling to Xenia numbers and put that into Chip's model as well and come back a few meetings from now.
Tomorrow?
Sure, be having 10 tomorrow, sure.
I'm on PTO tomorrow.
I know, that's what you want today.
All right, thank you very much, Board.
I mean,
It doesn't hurt to investigate a little bit.
okay.
Yeah, it's good to.
Well, I mean-
Get more information.
Okay, well, let's play this out. Chip puts us on a 10-year payback, and this looks feasible. Man, there's no sense of wasting time, right? I mean, until tonight, I hadn't even thought that this was a viable thing, because every time you turn over a rock, there's nothing under it. And so this is, I mean, that's very strong. So I mean, that's very helpful. And so it's the first time to me, it looks like there's a viability.
I don't know about the 10 years, but yeah,
Well, I think that's what Chip will help with is,
we're making
Yes.
a lot of assumptions and guessing at a lot of things.
Right.
So
And so what do you mean by that?
we don't know what the future brings.
Well, but nobody does, right?
Well, true, but like you said, we could lose our biggest customer, especially in that industry, that integrated ag industry. They could just shut down an egg plant here and say, we're moving it all back down to the south. And you've lost a huge customer. So, I mean, that is
But that could happen today without making any change.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's worth noting too, when we did this water project with the tower and the mains, that was $7 million. We financed that as a 40-year term, correct? Because we were not comfortable with raising rates. And the only way to not raise the rates was to do a 40-year term. This is a $10 million project, paid back over a potential
Well, just
10-year, even
options,
just a
yeah.
20-year.
Right.
It's a much larger project, potentially paid off in half the time. So it may actually, it may be to our benefit to do it, but if you're not prepared to do some major rate increase, it's not even worth discussing at this time, because there's gonna be some, am I wrong to say there's gonna be some major rate increase up front?
Well, except for you're using all that money that you were paying to Xenia to pay towards debt, so
So you're
there
buying
is
your
some
own.
offset.
You're buying your own versus paying Xenia. So-
Except those first 2 years, we'll be doing both, right? Paying for the project and buying Xenia's water.
Perhaps our financing.
But your financing wouldn't start until the project's,
Yeah.
okay, or project's complete.
Sure.
Like valid point.
That is true, yeah, that's the. Plus you have a
But
significant.
you've got that budget set up in such a way, we could start prepaying debt at the current rates that are set now, right? The cash flow model shows that could be prepaid without raising rates, so, I mean, let's get that noise out of the discussion. There's no rate increases to prepay this debt on a shorter period of time, period.
I think there might be a temporary period of paying though from these rates. So,
Yeah, and you need time to figure out what that rate would be, right? But
just, we don't know, I just,
Yeah.
we just wanna work on that a little more.
That's what I think you would,
I think ultimately it looks good though.
I think you would stay ahead of the game. I would, and small increases, like for me, a 1% increase is like 60 cents on my water.
It's honestly, it's not meaningful enough to, it should be more. It should be, yeah,
So,
that's the board's
so,
position, I want to be
If we
respectful.
think we're moving in that direction, that's where I would be.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
Let's make small increases, pay down debt early, maybe even build a reserve if we can, and not have to shock people.
And when you're maintaining and running your own,
Because that's exactly where we're at with this electric project, is
That's the other key piece, yeah.
we haven't raised rates, and we've got this big project, and it's a shock. And it's gonna be for the next several years.
and when we're maintaining and owning our own water treatment plant, we'll want our reserve amount to go up.
absolutely, because you know the repairs, a lot more overhead, absolutely.
So-
Keep it going up. Yep. Correct.
SRF requires 10%?
Yes.
10%.
So you have to have $1.10 net revenues for every dollar of debt service. USDA is kind of 1 for 1. Right.
But even out, I mean, outside of that 10%, we kind of need to discuss internally too, what's our just philosophy around how much reserve we should have? Is it, because eventually that debt won't be there, and what do we want that reserve amount to be? So,
You bet.
So, and I think that Xenia line, that board at that time did a good thing. They put a better water source to our citizens, and that's a revenue. If this were to move forward and if the math made sense, that is now a revenue source for us to keep rates or not raise them as fast because we're selling water because of a water treatment plant, and we're controlling our own destiny versus having someone else dictate.
Potentially.
Yeah, if it worked, yeah.
Okay. I'll get with Chip and
It's working, I mean, it's working in Guthrie, Kenora, and Greenfield, and so, it doesn't hurt us to understand all these dynamics. Thanks for all this work.
you're welcome.
Very much.
We're not done yet, so we'll see what,
No, I know,
see where that goes. Okay.
You have B, certified site plan evaluation agreement for services.
So at the last board meeting, there was interest in starting to look at a certified site. So this is a certified industrial site that would be within the utilities district for water and for electric. And, IEDA, Iowa Economic Development Authority, was, here at the meeting and presented what those were about and the steps that you have to go through. And this is just baby step number one. It is talking to the property owner, probably multiple conversations about the process, making sure they're comfortable with it, answering their questions, making sure that they're not committing to something they can't get out of later. Just making sure that they're okay moving forward with this. It is also, there's a pre-application that you have to submit, just saying that we're interested with some basic information. And then there's maps and figures and stuff that go with that. So this is really just the first step and seeing if the board's wanting to take that first step or not. Now, we may talk to the property owners and, initial is hesitant. Yeah, let's talk about it. It wasn't a slam the door in it. So, we're optimistic that they're interested, but maybe when we're done with this conversation with them, it's not going anywhere. And so then all we've done is, just spend some money on this first step.
I have a question.
Sure.
Isn't this kind of something what SEED is supposed to be doing? I have no problem doing this, but can SEED help us out with this stuff, money-wise? I mean, you guys got the money in there. So couldn't you guys help us out a little bit? Because isn't this part of what SEED is?
I could ask them about it again.
Oh, you've asked them about it? And what did they say?
They weren't interested at the time.
So why were they not interested at the time? Did they give a reason?
They want to give the current effort more of a chance.
They want to give the what?
The current efforts more of a chance.
What current efforts?
They've got the sites posted on,
They have their own site plans.
no.
It's just an internet listing, right?
Yeah.
So property is available for sale. Yeah, this is a little more than that. But what about the city, on the city side? Are they interested?
They voted to participate with this, but we haven't asked them for any cost share.
Well, I just think that's what SEED is about, from
Yeah.
what I know.
Yeah.
I think they should be helping. I mean, that's my theory. You guys have the money, you should be willing to help with no problem. Because don't you do the housing development? This is bringing more jobs into town, if we would get it.
Valuation, jobs, water, electric.
The valuations would be way more than any residential, probably, and what we get for taxes. Seems like it would be natural.
So
I mean, I have no problems with utilities doing it, none whatsoever.
So why don't we do it this way? Why don't we,
No, I don't. That's
Right.
part of SEED's,
Yeah.
the reason we have SEED.
yeah, so,
We're not the only
See, gets
beneficiary.
their money
Yeah.
from the city though.
right.
Well,
But
yeah, but I mean-
Yeah, but I think the point is there's been some, Matt, this is probably better coming from you, but there's been, with Quick Start, there's more resources probably than historically ever has been. So why isn't that, like, helped or encouraged with development? That's, I don't know. So I guess, yeah, we would benefit from a water and electric usage point, but at the same time, evaluation and, and the city, they made a motion to participate or look at this as things go, right? So, they
Well, we
should
have a
be in
meeting
favor of
Monday
it,
night.
not a cost, no
A
cost.
joint meeting
proposal.
Monday night,
No,
we have
it won't be Monday. The joint meeting will be 24th,
24th
Of what month?
this month.
this month.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we could put that,
Yeah, you can put that on the agenda, you can give me a chance to talk to them again.
okay,
You can use it.
okay.
This
How's
is-
that?
This
we
just
did
seems like the
boards.
type of project that you'd want all three parts of this, utilities, city, seed, maybe other interested parties, all to have a few members that are constantly part of a group that's working on the game plan for this. in-
This,
in
it's been
conjunction
brought up
with-
several times, all right? This isn't a one time.
Correct.
So,
There's just not enough members of SEED that are convinced.
yeah, to me, I believe so strongly in this that even if the city and seed weren't willing to participate, I still believe in it.
Well, I do too.
More so. I completely understand your point, and I agree with you 100%. It should be a third,
Right.
from a cost perspective, because we're not talking about, we're talking about what, $40,000 to $100,000 is what that gal gave for a range over a given period of time. So that's the interest on, things, and it's not a huge deal, but to not do this and to miss out on what Van Meter's community is going to gain out of it isn't worth losing out or not doing it, is what I'm getting at.
Right.
See, this would be something to me, which I'm not totally against TIF like some people think I am, but this would be a perfect TIF project to me.
Yeah, until the state takes it away.
Well,
Yeah.
we don't know if they're gonna do that either, so.
The Senate voted for it, and they're giving it all.
To change it.
So I guess I'd like to continue this and follow up with Seed and the city and ask for them to share as a third cost. That's just me. Is that fair?
That's where I would be.
Yep.
So can I make
That's
that motion to proceed with this?
Yeah.
And then ask Seed and the city to share the 1/3 cost in this first step?
So do you want this on council agenda Monday
For the joint meeting.
or the joint meeting?
Well, that's a few weeks
24th?
away. I'm just saying, I'd like to,
Moving that tonight, the contract,
and then throw it in front of the council.
and then asking the council and the seat to vote.
Seed meets when?
Next Thursday.
So it's in front of them next Thursday, so our vote would be now, cities would be then, and theirs would be next week. Why couldn't you add it for Monday?
We can.
I don't know.
So you're voting we proceed, assume the third.
I'm not saying assume, I'm saying I'd like to make a motion to proceed and request Seed and the city participate a third. Not mandate, because, again, I'd be, my own personal, I'd be 100% unless even the city is.
Before I vote to proceed, I'd like to hear from the city.
Yeah, and that's fine, I disagree. I don't feel as though there's enough barriers not to do that. We already got our initial, I think we can kind of.
They can wait till the joint meeting and the seed meeting be before that.
We can, I kind of like that. We voted on the joint meeting
Okay. What is the joint?
and.
Yeah.
24.
This one?
And then before that, the seat will be making the decision. So we go to the joint meeting knowing what the seat
But
position
what is
is.
Seed, what are we asking of Seed is what I'm trying to say.
1/7.
Okay, so can we make that motion and say this is our proposal? We're proposing to share costs a third.
You already made that motion.
Okay, but then what is the ballpark cost? I mean, if you're asking Seed,
He has a dollar amount in his contract.
For this $6,800.
$6,800 for this first step.
6,800.
1,600 divided by 6.
Okay, so 2,200-ish and something, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you're asking. Because if you're sitting on their side and they say, what are you asking for? I mean,
A third is
What, $2,300 contribution?
well, yeah, a
roughly.
third of the start, so that'd be my motion.
Second.
How do you vote? Sherman?
Yes.
Horton?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Belden?
Yeah.
Amy, yes.
I will not be able to be at that joint meeting. If you do a Zoom or a phone call, I can participate that one.
Yeah, I think I'll just put it on the city
Assume it's.
council meeting.
Okay.
Get the approval, so there will be a something.
So what's the scope of this? You said 6,800 for phase one. If they follow this 1/3 approach, what's the maximum out of pocket?
So it's the 1,600 divided by 3.
No, I mean, if they stay with it 100.
Oh,
Or
if
100%.
if we do a third all the way through,
Yes, yes.
well, then you're at that $40,000 to $100,000.
Okay, so that's your range if that question comes up at C.
What was the question numbers?
If they say, okay, it's $2,300 now, what's the next amount gonna be, and the next amount, I mean, what am I signing up for? I can see somebody asking that.
Yes.
The range is 40,000 to 100,000, 100% sunk cost, so $33,000 is your max exposure. Okay,
And no, it's a pretty broad range just because we don't know yet.
and that's not at one time, that's over a 12-month period?
Yeah, that's over time, yeah. And there'll be a step 2 and a step 3.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, I'm just thinking we don't give someone specific information, they don't know what they're gonna be voting on, that's all. Or aren't being asked.
I can email that to you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Then the second line, you go there. Okay.
Okay, number 6.
Yeah, thank you. While I'm here, before you get to 6, just an update on the water tower. Pat and Ben and I had a meeting with the contractor, and their schedule right now is to move in end of October, beginning of November to do the work. That's kind of their schedule. So you won't see anything out there until late fall. So in case anybody asks, why is anything happening, that's the schedule.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, city administration report.
Okay, the monthly report, the first page of the financial statement. We are at 7.3, that's cash on hand at the bank. Next page, this is the end of the fiscal year, the end of June. The page 2 is the difference between the beginning balance, July 1st, 2024, and the ending balance at June 30th, 2025. We are at a plus number of 598,000. That's considering that we have some of that money from the water tower. So we are at a plus number, I'll say more comfortable. Next page, page 3 is a budget. Our budget was, we amended to be 30 million because we were expecting some of the refinancing that didn't happen. But we are within the budget, of course, we have 9 million left, but that was considered for the refinancing that we will consider. Page 4, that just the month of June, the difference between the beginning and the ending balance, we have a plus number of 16,000. So we ended the fiscal year really in a good shape. The next report is the breakdown of the budget, sales tax, water, electric, insufficient fund, customer deposit, DO positive, and that's good year we had, year 24-25. We start in July, year 25-26, hopefully we'll end it the same way we ended this fiscal year. The next report is the delinquent account. We only have 2, we shown on page 1. Next report, delinquent account paid in full, we only have 1, will be shown on page 2. Without saying the name, that takes us to page 4. The next report is payment agreement, we added 5 with a check mark without seeing names. The next report paid in full, we have 3. It will be showing on page 3, page 4, and the last one will be shown on page 7. And that take us to all the way to the page 8, the end of the report. Next report budgeting, we added 1 new customer. The report covers that deceased bankrupt, no change, and the last report is the offset for your information.
Okay. Number 7, public forum. Does anyone have anything?
Just a question back on this water treatment plant, sorry. But what, is there a timing issue with that 16% discount, like an application cycle period that you have to have, or not?
No, the block grant is taken quarterly,
Okay.
so
Not a big
and
deal.
the forgivable loan is, it's, there's no application for it, they just decide to do it. It's the strangest thing.
Are you done?
Yes.